is going to be the fallout of this? And we're going to talk more on the review, but the reviews for this film are not surprising. And you're seeing people who have genuinely been or generally been big supporters of Marvel that are even it's hard for them to thread the needle to talk about how fun it is. But what is going to be the fallout of this come next week? And we will talk about the box office next week. What is going to be the fallout, Alan, from all of this?
That's a good question. What's the fallout? I mean, if you're talking short term, we'll be talking about it for another week, and we'll not be talking about it again.
That's what I think too. Based on seeing the film, it's like, wow, there's just not much to talk about. The big story is going to be that this film bombed. A lot of people predicted it. That won't be a story, but we'll more than likely talk about it. And then that's it. How do they react going forward? Also, how quickly can they react? If this was 5 years in the making, so 5 years ago, in 2018, they were planning to get to Loki season 2, which tied into the Marvels. 5 years. So what's on the drawing board now for 5 years from now?
By the way, do you remember what was the original release date of the Marvels after they moved it several times?
They moved it 5 times. I don't remember what was the original release date.
I mean, okay. I mean, we'll give them a pass on COVID, but I mean, it had to have been 2021, late 2021.
Yeah.
Is that right? Or what? Maybe it was early 2022. Yeah, that sounds more like it.
Right. But I just what's the fallout going to be? One, I think more stories like this. More stories from Variety. Like this one. Is Marvel in trouble? And this story was somewhat polite, but there has to be behind the scenes some discussion that this is not working. This new direction is not resonating. And by resonating, to me, if the box office is democratic because you decide what to spend your money on, you decide not just if you see the Marvels, how many times you see it, or are you ignoring it? Why is most of the audience checked out? So, yeah, Alan, your thoughts?
Well, why is the audience checked out? Is that
Yeah, like if the audience look, the box office comes out, it's going to be a disaster. How is Disney going to respond? How is Marvel going to respond to this? And also Disney, because they're in trouble.
Yeah, they're gonna blame us. They will absolutely. I mean, we've mentioned this before. I honestly believe they believe they're doing the right thing, and that the that the toxic internet fandom is ruining them. And if we would go away, people would feel freer to watch their products, not realizing that everything they do sucks. They I get zero indication that anyone knows what's wrong except us. It's not even this whole idea of diversity and race swapping and gender swapping. You can do that. There are ways to do that and do it right. But when you do it for the sake of doing it, that's when you run into trouble, and that's what they've been doing for But since Captain Marvel came out, and I get no sense at all that anyone knows what they're doing, or is willing to come to the truth and say this is what we've been doing wrong for the last 5 years. And that's ultimately I think what I want to see is someone in Disney saying we've been going down the wrong direction for a very long time, and this is the direction we've been doing, and this is why it didn't work. And until that time comes, I have zero faith in the Disney company to do anything right in any of their brands.
Ultimately, and I have to credit Mahler with this, who said how will we know when it's over for Marvel? When they bring back Captain America, Iron Man, and the original Avengers and make an original Avengers movie. What this movie sets up is it sets up a multiverse storyline where we're gonna get a Kang story at some point, right? The end of that, whether it's played by Jonathan Majors or not, is still too soon to tell because that court case has him facing 1 year in prison. The other thing is it set up a young Avengers. Two things in the post-credit scenes. Are they going to go that way? Are they just going to forget it? Do you know how many things they've forgotten? Someone needs to make a list. Somebody made a list of all of the different Star Wars projects that were announced that never happened. Somebody needs to make a list of all the loose threads that Marvel has just conveniently forgotten about and not followed up on. The list is long
Yeah,
and growing.
and it exists in every film since every film of Phase 4 and 5.
It does. Every film in Phase 4 and 5 will make a list on Friday
Like
and go
if
through
you
the
think
list.
about it, what you know, there are no plans for any sequels for any of the movies from Phase 4 and 5 that wasn't a sequel in Phase 4 and 5.
Eternals 2 is coming, Alan.
Yeah,
The Marvels 2 is coming out.
I know.
And the other thing is it's really interesting is like how did this movie cost so much? You saw the film. Do you believe that this cost nearly $300 million? Why?
Sure, sure. I mean, if you believe everything about the reshoots can't be cheap. Um, we, also, we talk about the money. I think, what is it? The best way I can say it is, I think they were given a big budget and they spent it on the wrong things.
Right.
Actors is one of them. I think actors are severely overpaid, and they're not getting the return on that. And I think actors, because in the past they've been paid so much, it's hard to pull it back and say, "Hey, we're no longer going to pay actors $50 million for a movie anymore." And this is, I think this is a lot of what this strike is about, is resetting all that and saying, we're not going to spend this kind of money. We're not going to go into these kind of budgets anymore. Because it for some reason, and I don't know how it happened, but it seemed like these streamers, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Warner Brothers, somehow they got a giant checkbook. I think people are saying that these may have been these ESG loans. I have no idea what that is or how that works, but yeah, they were given a lot of money to basically bring in this new messaging, this new style of storytelling, and I think that money's gone. I mean, look, unlike the government, Hollywood can't print money.
Well, what effectively what the strikes are an opportunity for the studios to do their own version of the snap.
Hmm.
It's their own version of the snap. And basically, you're going to see the industry shrink by half because the audience has shrunk by half
Hmm.
and cannot support all of these TV shows and movies and streaming services. Like, we just don't have the money as
Yeah. Well,
fans.
but the thing is, I mean, this is the sad thing, is we were there. When Force Awakens came out, we came out in droves, not knowing anything about what we were going to see. It was a hit before the first line of the script was written.
Right.
That time doesn't exist anymore. Disney Star Wars has squandered, our love of movies at this point. The entire industry has squandered our love of movies.
Yeah.
Because we were spending a lot of money on it, and then when the quality went down, we started spending less and less of it, and now they blame us for not being interested anymore when
Right.
when they're the ones who made it uninteresting.
How would you fix the Marvels? Says Willie Monkey King's music for two. You could not fix it. The premise is flawed in itself. Once you see the movie, I think you'll realize that all of the reshoots were meaningless. There was no way to fix it. Was
I
there
would
anything you
say
could have done to?
skimpier uniforms.
actually make it, when you look at like the early Charlie's Angels movies,
Mhm.
you know, the ones with Cameron Diaz where she's like dancing in the Spider-Man underoos.
Yeah.
Make
You're making me
you know
think
what?
about it.
Captain Marvel can be sexy and she can be a strong woman. And She-Hulk can be sexy and appealing to young men and boys and be a strong woman. Being a strong woman, it doesn't mean you suddenly have to become sexless. That seems so narrow-minded. But I would make it. I would actually have made, if I was going to do the Marvels, I would basically do Charlie's Angels in space. That's what it would be.
Yeah.
It would be fun. Charlie's Angels. Can you think about that? If I just said Charlie's Angels in space, but what they did was this, you know, this lecturing. What do they call that? What, Danica? Danica from Comic Book Girl 19. Shout out to Danica, Comic Book Girl 19. Her whole thing was the no fun Marvel mommies.
Yeah. I
That's
mean, if
what-
you were going to make Kamala and Carol gay, then go for it. Lean into it. You know, have
Yeah.
a, you know, have a moment where they're off to the side making out or something like that.
Right. Why not? Well, I'll say this, like, you know, like even Guardians of the Galaxy, it had romance.
Mhm.
Gamora and Star-Lord, they were romantically involved. It was humorous. It was funny. There's nothing, I mean, Gamora was objectively sexy. So was Nebula. Look at how different Nebula is from the first two movies to the last one. They put her in this dumpy outfit on purpose. Without actually saying it out loud, none of these women have an interest in men. They all have interest in other women and what other women are doing. They might as well have just gone full lesbian. Just make it gay. It's what do they call that? Gay coded. It's gay coded. You'll see. You'll see.
Although, okay, so here's something. If you are actually going to watch this movie, there are moments where the three are together and having a conversation. There's a point where Carol yells at Kamala because she wouldn't get in the ship and she was going to put lives in danger. And then there's a scene of an apology about that from Carol, and it felt like to me an HR meeting I once had to attend.
Exactly. It was like such a, I hate to say this, this will be sexist for a minute. It's such a girl thing. Like, hey, I'm so sorry I didn't like, they're all trying to out nice each other and it's ridiculous. So gonna start at the top.
And I hate to say,
it,
women don't do that in real life. They're just as catty and mean as men can be.
I just think conflict is interesting and there is very little, the conflict in here is forced.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel organic.